Okay, so just getting back to the big picture a bit here for a second. These are the lecture slides from the first week. Um, so week number 1, we talked about this part of the handbrake strategy model. For the next, hello, there we go. For the next several weeks, we're going to be talking about this part right here, strategy analysis. And chapter-wise in your textbook, week 1, we covered vision and mission. Last week, as you guys remember, we talked about the template in general for your case paper, and we talked about Globus. So today we're going to talk about chapter 2, the external environment. Close that up and open this. So, what is an industry? I'm real big on industry analysis. I think it's a cool opportunity, to leverage some of the databases that we have here on campus and elsewhere to really get an idea of all of the different competitors that are battling each other in a particular industry. So, an industry in general has firms offering similar products. They have similar goals with respect to opportunities and threats and strategies and investments. And they tend to be organized according to numerical categories. Anybody in here know what NAICS codes are? NAICS? It stands for North American Industrial Classification System. And there's a nice little website here called NAICS.com where you can find the code associated with the industry of your whatever business you're studying. So if you open up that link, you can go to find your NAICS code here, and there's a couple different ways to look at things. If you just type in, for example, citrus growing. Well, we didn't get citrus growing, but how about citrus? There we go. Citrus groves, other non-citrus fruit farming, soil preparation, citrus pulp. So we've got all these different industry codes here that are involved with citrus in some way. So when you're starting to search for information in databases and so forth that is associated with that industry, you're going to want to use this little code here. So every business that is a citrus grove, except for oranges, which have they're citruses, but they have their own code, is classified under this number 111320 here. So forth and so on. You can also simply look down at the list that's below the search box here, and you can see that the way this industrial classification system is set up, the first 2 numbers of the code have to do with broad overall categories. So 1-1, everything that starts with 1-1, for example, is something to do with agriculture, forestry, fishing, or hunting. So basically, it has to do with the natural environment and living things in one way or another in the natural environment. 2-1 is also the natural environment, but it has to do with mining. So non-living things, taking things out of the earth. 2-2 is utilities, so things like power, electricity, gas. 2-3 is construction. You'll see so on and so forth all the way down to 9. as you go forward with the numbers from 1-1 to, so if you add 1110 to the end of that, that's soybean farming. 1120 is oilseed farming, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the longer the number gets, the more detailed the description of the industry gets. So we'll use those codes a couple different times in searches and databases later on in this course, so I wanted to point that out now. Industry characteristics. So what are things that all companies in an industry have in common? They've all got the same market size and growth rate that they're dealing with. The number of buyers in a market is fixed at any one time. The needs and requirements those buyers have tends to be consistent and common across the industry. The scope of competitive rivalry is a detail of an industry that is important to know. Number and size of competitors kind of has to do with scope of competitive rivalry. The degree of product differentiation. So the further products get differentiated, the more industries tend to split off into separate industries. If there's only a moderate amount of differentiation, then that's still captured within the same industry. Product innovation is a characteristic of industries. Production capacity. The prevalence of backward and forward integration. So we'll talk a couple weeks from now about integrating forward, integrating backward, and what that means. And in any given industry, there's a certain level of backward or forward integration. Entry and exit barriers, we'll talk about a little bit more in this class later on. The nature and pace of technological change, we'll also talk about a little bit later on. Scale economies, which means the more you do something, the cheaper per unit it becomes to do, basically. And experience curve effects, the more you do something, the better you get at it, and the cheaper it is to do because you learn how to do things better. The profitability of the industry is also another factor that is important to conceive of. As we go through these lectures each week, there's going to be certain sections of your case analysis template that I want you to fill out that are associated with each lecture. So there's 3 tools that we're going to talk about today. The first one is the concept of driving forces. So driving forces are basically external influences that shape an industry landscape and alter the competitive conditions in that industry. When you're analyzing driving forces, the first thing you want to do is think about changes that are going to take place within 1 to 3 years. Not things that are 10 years from now, not things that are next week, things that are going to be 1 to 3 years from now. And you want to narrow it down to about 3 or 4 factors. You don't want to have 10 different driving forces that you're thinking about, and you don't want to just be thinking about one. It should be about 3 or 4 that you zero in on when you're doing your analysis. When you're trying to decide which the most important factors are, one thing to consider is how those factors cause demand for the products in that industry to either go up or go down. Another factor to consider is how those forces make competition either more or less intense. And a third thing to consider is whether those forces lead to higher or lower profitability in the industry. And then, of course, once you've determined what the driving forces are, you want to determine what strategic changes, if any, are needed in order to adapt to those changes that are coming down the road. So this is a nice map of driving forces on the outside. And then the next concept we're going to talk about Porter's 5 forces, which are on the inside of this. And this is a really good way of characterizing any industry that you're looking at. There's big picture things that are changing the nature of the industry. like economic, physical, sociocultural, global, technological, political, legal, and demographic factors. And then there's structures within the industry about what is the threat of new entrants, how powerful are suppliers, how powerful are buyers, that are called Porter-Spy forces, which we'll get to next. Talking about driving forces first, demographic factors are things like population size or income distribution. Economic factors are things like inflation rates or budget deficits and surpluses. Political factors are things like antitrust laws or education policies in certain societies. Social cultural issues are things like attitudes about quality of work life, workforce diversity. Technological issues are things like applications of knowledge, private and government investments in R&D. Global issues are things like important political events around the world or different cultural and institutional attributes in different societies. And then physical environment segments are those issues are things like energy consumption, availability of water, things that have to do with the natural environment. So if I jump out of here quick and go back to your template again, I talked a bit about this last week, but to show you again, here's exactly what I want you to do for your case analysis template for driving forces. First of all, you're going to scroll down in the document till you get to the place where it says driving forces. Here we go, external analysis, driving forces. And the instructions are right here. Go to the business challenges and trends and opportunities sections of First Research Industry Profiles. Read them, select 3, and copy and paste the footnote. So, in order to do that, illustrating again, we're going to go to the library's databases section. So, first of all, csub.edu. And then we're going to go down to the bottom here and click on library. Wait for a second for this to come up. You'll see a tab here for databases. Click on that and then select the database. You're going to scroll down to the letter F and choose First Research Industry Profiles and click Go. And that is going to give you a search box that looks like this. So you can either search for the code that we talked about, or you can just type the name of the industry in, depending on which you want. So if I type in agriculture here, you'll see here agriculture, livestock, agriculture and forestry sector. That's a little bit more broad, so we're going to look at that one. And you're going to want to scroll down in this report till you get to the blue section that says critical issues. And you're going to look at critical issues, then the section about business challenges, the section about business trends, and the section about industry opportunities. I want you to read those sections. Think about these factors that are being discussed here and pick the 3 that you think are the most important for the next 1 to 3 years of that industry. So, for example, if you thought technological efficiencies here, GPS on farm equipment, things like that, if you think that's one of the most important factors changing the industry, you're going to copy technological efficiencies here, copy, and paste it right here for the force, and then go back and copy the little paragraph here and paste that in the comments section. And then you're going to need to do some cleanup on the font, because whenever you copy and paste from PDF to Word, the line return carriages get all mixed up. So make that so it all is nice and pretty. Highlight it and make it Times New Roman 12 instead of the different types of fonts we have right now. And then you're going to do the same thing for these next two rows. And then finally, at the end, you're going to put a footnote in here. References, insert footnote, and you're going to write first research industry profiles. And you're going to go back to the report, go up to the top of the report, and copy the title, Agriculture and Forestry Sector. Put that in the footnote, and I want the date that's in that report as well, this 4/11/2016. Copy that, put it in here, and you're done. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So that's what I want you to do for driving forces. And in terms of importance, driving forces are the overall big picture changes in technology, society, demographics, things like that that are changing the landscape of an industry over time. So moving along, Porter's 5 forces. This is a really common framework for assessing the structure of an industry. So driving forces tend to change over time, tend to change the future of an industry. Porter's 5 forces are static at any one point in time. They change over time, but at a certain window in time, the 5 forces are what they are for any given industry. And these 5 forces are, first of all, buyer power. So how powerful are the buyers in the market? And that's really determined, first of all, by how many buyers there are. The more buyers there are, the less power each individual buyer tends to have. However, if switching costs are high, sometimes even if there are not very many buyers, buyer power is still not as high as it could be because it's inconvenient to switch from one product to another. So an example of that is PC and Mac. So if you're comfortable using the Mac operating system, it takes a while to get accustomed to how to use the PC operating system and vice versa. So that's actually a case where there's a lot of buyers and there's switching costs. So the buyers in the personal computer market have very, very little power. Suppliers, however, the second force in Porter's 5 forces are a little bit more powerful in the home computer sector or personal computer sector. It's still the same question: how many suppliers are there, and how high are the switching costs? But basically, the suppliers of components, there are far less suppliers of components for home or personal computers than there are customers to buy personal computers. So by comparison, suppliers have more power in the home personal computing industry than buyers do. The threat of new entrants. So how hard is it to get into a certain industry? Basically, that's a factor of cost and what I like to call bandwidth, or how crowded the market is already. So if you think about a business like the aerospace business, it costs a lot of money to make jet engines. It costs a lot of money to have all the facilities necessary to build an airplane. It's not something I could do in my garage. Financial services, by contrast, is very, very cheap to get into. Basically, all I have to do is say that I'm a financial advisor, and I can start offering financial advice. There's no I mean, there are some certification programs, but they're not required. It's very cheap to get into the financial services industry. However, something that makes it less attractive and not as appealing to get into is the fact that there are already so many financial services vendors out there. So it may be cheap to get in, but it's already so crowded that it's not very attractive to get into that business. So that's some examples of the threat of new entrants. The threat of substitutes. Are there other products or services that could satisfy the same customer needs as the product or service in your industry? So a good example of that is airlines, trains, trucks, and boats. Those are all different ways to ship products around the world or around the country. They are substitute products for each other, or substitute services in this case. The airline industry is a totally different industry than the trucking industry, but they are substitutes for each other when it comes to shipping products. And then finally, rivalry. First of all, how many competitors are there in an industry? All things being equal, the more competitors there are, the more competitive that industry is. However, sometimes even when there's few competitors, it's still very competitive because those competitors are dedicated towards competing with each other. A good example of this is Google and Microsoft in the personal browser industry. Google's got probably 75-80% of the market. Bing has the other 25%. And Microsoft and Google could just say, hey, you guys keep your part of the market, we'll keep ours, and we'll make things easy on each other. But they don't do that. Microsoft and Google hate each other. Every chance they get, they try to compete and steal market share from the other ones. So even though there's only two competitors, it's a very fiercely competitive industry because those businesses are dedicated towards competing with each other. So this is a model from your book, which is a good representation of the Porter's Five Forces. I just put it in here to remind you of taking a look at it in the textbook. Getting to the case analysis paper, there is a change this year, unfortunately. In the past, I had you use a database called Business Source Premier in order to find the information that you copy and paste in here. For whatever reason, our library has decided to discontinue its subscription to that database. I just found this out earlier today when I went in and tried to demonstrate this for the morning class. So instead of copying and pasting, this is now going to be in your own words. So I want you to go in, think about your industry, think about how many buyers there are, think about whether there's switching costs of one kind or another, and you tell me whether you think buyer power is high, medium, or low, and then you give me a sentence or two justifying why you think that is. Okay, so instead of copying and pasting, this is now going to be in your own words as a group. Fill this out based on what I described in the course slides. Is that clear to everybody, or is there a question? Okay, cool. The last tool to talk about in the lecture today is key success factors. So key success factors are competitive issues that affect every industry member the same. So things like, on what basis do customers choose between the competing brands? What resources and competitive capabilities does a company need to possess in order to be successful in that industry? What does it take for a company to achieve and sustain competitive advantage? So key success factors spell the difference between profit and loss, success and failure, and they're things like technology-related issues, manufacturing-related issues, distribution-related issues, marketing skills, organizational capabilities. There's other types of knowledge, skills, and abilities as well. What I want you to do, basically, is actually put this in your own words as well. However, it's not quite in your own words. I want you to go back and look at the resources needed section of the business model that you filled out. So you're going to fill out the business model section of this, and then take a look at resources needed. And whatever those resources were, those are going to be your key success factors. So you're just going to go up to the top part of the document where you did your business model analysis, and sort of copy and paste the resources needed into these rows here. And then you're going to need to decide, in your own opinion, percentages for these factors that add up to 100. So, we talked about the example of the academic business in the first week of class. Key success factors in academia are professors to teach the classes, basically. Relationships with the government to get funding money. Relationships with donors for funding. Buildings and physical facilities. And let's say marketing, because we have to get out there and get the word out that we exist, so we can bring in tuition money as well. So we talked about the way that revenues come in the academic business, that is largely from the state government, and then to a smaller extent from tuitions and private donations. So, and then the main variable costs, one of the big variable costs is teachers. So the more classes we teach, the more teachers we need to teach the classes. And a good example of a fixed cost in the academic business is the buildings and rooms we have here. So we've got capacity for 75 students in here. We pay the same amount of money for the utilities and the cleaning and so forth of this room, regardless of whether there's 75 people or 5 people in here. So that's an example of fixed costs. So if we take those costs and express them as resources needed, we need good relationships with the state government, we need good relationships with donors, we need a good way to market tuition, we need good teachers, and we need good quality buildings. So I've listed those here. Then the next thing I need to do, or what you would need to do if you were doing this, is decide on weights that these possess. So I usually start doing this by saying high, medium, low, and then go in and add numbers to it again. So I think probably relationship with the government is the biggest, most important thing. Professors and relationships with donors, I'd kind of say are medium, and buildings and tuition marketing are low. Not that we don't value your tuition, but the amount of money that comes from the state government is way, way bigger than what actually comes from tuitions. So this is the highest. So if I have 1 high, 2 mediums, and 2 lows, maybe I could say 40% here, 20% for each of the mediums, and 10% for each of the lows. That makes, I think that adds up to 100, doesn't it? And then here to the right, I'm going to put in why I think things are most important. So we've listed government relations as most important because this is by far and away the main source of revenue in the industry. And you're going to do each of these just explaining why it's the number that it is. So maybe professors are important for offering the number of classes needed. However, they are not as important as government relations. Therefore, we've rated it at 20%. And then buildings, for example, buildings are an important part of the fixed costs of the industry. However, this cost is relatively low compared to the cost of professors, and therefore we've rated it lowest. Period. You're just going to fill out each of these 5 boxes. Unfortunately, from a previous version of this, I have different colors in the different rows here. So once you're done, I want you to go ahead and change the font to black for everything. And in all of these, after you're done filling out the tool, I want you to delete the instructions. Okay? So when you're done with filling out each tool, it's going to basically look like this. So it's 2 o'clock right now. I'm curious. I'd like you guys to talk in your groups for about 5 minutes about potential businesses you might want to focus on for your case paper, and then think about some of the driving forces of change that may be changing those industries in the future. So talk for about 5 minutes or so about what business you might want to focus on.
How's your Monday going?
Huh?
How's your Monday going?
It's okay so far.
Okay. Do I still need to email you my personal development plan? Are you sure?
Yeah, it's fine.
I didn't mean to call it better or anything like that.
No, that's okay. It's all good.
I was sitting in study hall on Sunday, and I was just kind of going through it like that. And take a look at it and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I will.
I'll come in during some office hours.
I will.
We'll go from there. But we met up with the Globus group.
Yep.
And I think we're getting a pretty good feel for it. There's a lot of things to click on and stuff though.
Mm-hmm.
CSX. That's what the train railway company.
Yep.
That's what we were thinking about our case analysis.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay if I leave right now?
Yeah, as long as the rest of your group is
okay with it.
Is okay with it, sure.
Okay.
Cool.
See you on Wednesday.
See you later. Later on. Yes.
Like, are we in the same group, like the same letter?
Yes.
So,
Well,
because like my friend like wrote the group G,
Mhm.
and for me it says like just because the answer does not match the complementary.
oh. Hang on.
see you tonight.
Okay. What registration code is it?
The one you sent it to me. In my group.
Yeah, show me the email. Hey, it should be company G. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Should I like change something? Change my email? It's a G. So I'm gonna try like to change my email, my password, so I'm see like if it's working out.
Yeah, try it again. It should be G. Yes.
Does that matter that you give us like a different one?
What's that?
When we logged in, you know how that's for the letter?
Yeah.
On our thing we put B. So does that matter? Because you told us we were K and
Yeah. I did that because there's actually two different industries. It's correct. Like in the game, your group was D. In the class overall, your group K. The game doesn't have enough letters. The game only goes to L. I think it only goes to L. Yeah, the game only goes to L. So I have N here as well. So I split the group. I split the class into two separate groups from A through G. So in the class you have one letter, in the group in the game you have another. Does that make sense?
yeah, I just wanted to know if you fix it.
No, you're fine. So what company are you thinking about? Costco? Cool. Cool. I like it. No problem.
Does it matter if the groups have the same company?
Huh?
Does it matter that the two groups and the class have the same company?
No.
Affect the grade and
No,
everything?
it won't. Yes. You're in I. You're back there in the back, right? Yeah, you're in group I. No problem.
I spoke with you last week regarding my resume that I applied for the internship, and you said to email it to you.
Yes.
So you can look at it. I didn't email it, but I have it. I just want you to look at it and see if I need to edit some changes that you think would probably benefit me.
Sure.
So I have it with me. Would you like it?
Yeah,
or-
sure.
Okay. There you go. And I know you're busy, so whenever you get back to me, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
I had a question about the Globus.
Yep.
So this week's the practice week.
Yes.
Okay. Is it going to be exactly the same? Like, are you going to just reset it for year 6?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess one more question. We have to get in our changes by Sunday or today?
For this week, you have to do it by tomorrow night.
Okay.
And then starting
Next
this
week.
coming week, it's going to be every Sunday.
Okay. Okay, cool. Just double checking. Thank you.
No problem.